Good afternoon, everyone. You are very welcome to our Sustainable Enterprise webinar series. My name is Katrina Power, and I'm a Senior Executive in the Sustainability Solutions Department of Enterprise Ireland. Please note today's webinar is being recorded, and we will share the recording and slides afterwards. And the recording will also be available to watch back on the Enterprise Ireland website. We are delighted to host this webinar, Ecodesign for Sustainable Products Regulation, in collaboration with the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment, Circulera and Kinset. I am joined today by my colleague Ankush Sirsath and also our speakers, Aisling McCarthy, Sophie Reynolds and Katie O'Riordan, who will share their insights on the new European Sustainable Products Regulation. We'll have time at the end for Q&A, so if you have any questions during the webinar, please pop them into the chat and we'll hopefully be able to answer them at the end. EI is committed to working with its clients' companies as they navigate the journey to a low-carbon, sustainable future. And as outlined in our new strategy, our primary objective is to accelerate sustainable Irish business. Enterprise Ireland plays a very specific role when it comes to the Ecodesign regulation and has been doing so for a number of years, supporting the Ecodesign Directive. This is because it's highly impactful for industry from an innovation perspective and also for maintaining industry competitiveness. The Ecodesign Sustainable Products Regulation replaces the Ecodesign Directive and it establishes a new framework for setting ecodesign requirements on specific product groups. It is very significant because it extends the old directive in two ways, reaching a wider range of products. Those include the energy-related products, but additional products such as steel, aluminium, textiles, furniture, tires, and mattresses. This increases the scope of the number of companies affected. So this can include business manufacturing, selling, trading affected products. Understanding these challenges is essential for compliance, maintaining market access, and identifying competitive advantages. ESPR is one of the flagship actions mentioned in the Clean Industrial Deal to help power the circular economy and to help ensure access to materials and resources going forward. It will ensure a lot of benefits for companies. It will help to close innovation gaps, develop new markets for sustainable products, create resilient supply chains, and accelerate decarbonisation, all enhancing competitiveness. Our role at Enterprise Ireland is to work with DETI and various other authorities and departments, such as the SEI and others, to provide information to industry about ecodesign, to represent Ireland at relevant EU and national fora, including the newly established Ecodesign Forum and the Member State Expert Group and Regulatory Committee. But we also provide a conduit for industry involvement and consultation relating to the development of these new ecodesign measures. So for the purpose of our webinar today, we're providing information to our industry and broader stakeholder groups about the new ESPR regulation. So the key takeaways from today would be that you'll be able to learn about it. You'll be able to learn about the sectors of focus and key measures. You will hear how ESPR can enable circular business models, opening new markets and competitive advantages. You'll deep dive into the practicalities of what is a digital product passport, which is a key measure in the regulation. You can stay up to date with the consultation process and learn how to do that, and also understand how the Green Transition Fund supports that we have at Enterprise Ireland can support circular economy activities in your company. I am joined by a fantastic group of experts who will share their ESPR insights. Joining us today is Aisling McCarthy from DETI, who's an assistant principal. Aisling trained as an environmental scientist and has worked in various roles in the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment for the last 20 years. She is currently working in the Climate Programmes Unit of the department and leads on ecodesign policy and legislation, including on national implementation of the Ecodesign for Sustainable Products Regulation. From a circular innovation perspective, we are joined by Sophie Reynolds, who's a Circular and Policy Innovation Lead at Irish Manufacturing Research. She works at the intersection of strategic design, sustainability policy, systems innovation, and industry engagement. She leads on this work and also works with Circulera, Ireland's first public-private network for circular innovation. Sophie's work focuses on supporting Irish businesses to go beyond compliance with emerging EU policies like ESPR, using regulation to unlock new opportunities for R&D, commercial innovation, and long-term sustainability value. And we are also joined today by Katie O'Riordan, who's CEO and co-founder of Kinset, a green tech company who is helping fashion and consumer brands navigate the evolving landscape of environmental regulation and digital product innovation. With over 2 decades of experience working with global brands across Europe and North America, her hands-on experience working with sourcing, production, and brand building, paired with a deep understanding of the fashion industry's sustainability challenges, led her to create Kinset as a practical and scalable platform for transparency that empowers brands to connect with consumers through credible storytelling and verified environmental data. So today we're going to learn about the regulatory landscape, we're going to learn about circular innovation, and we're going to learn about all the different compliance and the data that's required for the ESPR regulation. So thank you for joining us, and I'm going to pass over to Aisling McCarthy. Thank you.
Thanks, Katrina, and thanks for setting the scene for my presentation so well. I'll just see now, can I share my slides? And if I go into... Now, hopefully everyone can see that now. So thank you, Katrina, again. As Katrina said, I'm Aisling McCarthy from the Climate Programmes Unit of the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment. And I'm going to build on what Katrina just said there and explain the regulatory landscape and tell you a little bit more about what is in the Ecodesign for Sustainable Products Regulation and what it aims to do. I'll also highlight some key timelines that you can look out for in the coming months and years. So first of all, I'd like to show you this kind of infographic. It's a commission infographic to show where the ESPR, which is kind of represented as a kind of a toolbox there in the middle of the infographic, sits in the wider circular economy package. It was first proposed in March 2022, and it complements product-specific EU rules such as the Construction Products Regulation, the Packaging Directive, chemicals legislation and the batteries regulation. It also sits alongside existing other consumer regulations such as empowering consumers and the right to repair directive. And it's going to create new product rules in line with the EU sustainable textiles, circular textiles strategy. And underneath at the bottom here as well, we can see some of the features of the ESPR regulation, which I'll go into in more detail on following slides. And as Katrina alluded to, it's also ESPR is also a key part of the Clean Industrial Deal that's being promoted by the EU. And it's all aimed at kind of circularity and access to materials and supply chain, all of that. So the main features of ESPR. So as we've heard, it replaces the 2009 directive. So anyone who works in the electronics or electrical using energy using product space will be familiar with this. It's been around since 2009 and it covers around about 32 product groups from household white goods to machinery, heat pumps, lighting, and other kinds of products. It's been really, really successful. So the EU were keen to build on that. So they've expanded the scope to cover pretty much all products potentially, but there is a working plan that I will go through that narrows down the products that are being prioritised for regulation under this, and then also a wider range of criteria beyond just the energy using aspects. Crucially, it's framework regulation. So while the regulation itself has some things that are directly applicable, and I'll mention those in a moment, particularly around destruction of unsold goods, most of the detail is going to come in delegated acts. So it's going to be phased in over time, and that allows time for us as member states to ramp up our own preparedness, and then for industry as well. So it's all going to come phased, and I'll go through the timeline in a moment. It's also going to introduce digital product passports, which will streamline information exchange. And there will also be transparency around the destruction of unsold goods. Again, I'll go into more detail about that. And then there's measures around green public procurement. So this slide I kind of included just to give you an idea of the kind of eco-design requirements that might be included. This is just a menu. Not all of these will apply to all products that are going to be covered, but these are the types of things that might be looked at in the various eco-design measures. And there will also be an ability to set information requirements. So some of the measures won't have any of these requirements at all. It'll just be a case of making certain information available. And there will also be performance-related measures as well for particular product groups, depending on what they are. So this is the timeline here. And we can see it was published in June 2024. And it entered into force on the 18th of July in 2024. And on that date also, the general principle to prevent destruction of unsold goods started to apply. The Ecodesign Forum was established and had its first meeting in February. Enterprise Ireland and this department, Enterprise Trade and Employment, represent Ireland on that. The first working plan was adopted by the Commission last month, and I'll give you more details about what's in that in a moment. So later this year, we're hoping, we haven't seen them yet, but we're expecting to see delegated acts on unsold goods and their destruction, giving more detail about what the derogations will be and what kind of information will need to be disclosed about by companies that are destroying unsold goods. We also expect to see acts later this year on DPP registry service providers. So I think there's 4 separate ones. And then the first product-specific measures are going to start applying from maybe next year, or we're going to see them from next year. And they usually have about an 18-month lead-in to give everybody time to prepare. So this is what's in, these are the new products that are in the Commission's working plan that was published last month. And this list is based on consultation over years on a very detailed impact assessment based on market size, environmental impact over a number of different categories, and potential for quick improvement as well. So this is the final list that came out from all of that consultation and assessment. So textiles, apparel, clothing will be one of the first ones we will see in 2027, but we should see a draft of the delegated act later this year. And then by the time it's discussed, worked on, there's a consultation on it. It'll be 2027 before it's finalised. Furniture, tyres, mattresses, then intermediate products that are going to be included as well, include iron and steel. And you'll see the timeline on iron and steel is for Q4 2026. So that's coming up quite soon. So we expect to see that draft very soon, or we would hope to see it, but we haven't seen it yet. Aluminium as well for next year then. And then there are going to be horizontal requirements as well, which will apply to a number of products. So there'll be one on repairability, and then another one on recyclability and recycled content of electrical and electronic equipment. And then just as a little bit of a reminder and just kind of for completeness, these are a couple of Commission slides on the energy related products that are at an advanced stage under the 2009 directive and will be carried over into the new ESPR working plan. So there's a number of them here. Some of them are new products, and some of them are updates to products that have already been regulated under the 2009 directive. And then there's a transitional regime under Article 79 of ESPR as well to bring those products into it. So now a little bit about destruction of unsold goods. So Chapter 6 and Annex 7 of the regulation sets out what the requirements are here. First of all, as I mentioned already, the general principle already applies. So there's a general principle prohibiting the destruction of unsold consumer goods. And then there's an obligation on large companies to disclose any destruction of unsold goods in a clear and accessible manner on their website. And that will allow the Commission to gather information on the extent of it, the type of product groups, the reasons, all of that kind of stuff. And then the ban on the destruction of unsold consumer products, apparel, clothing, accessories and footwear is already in the regulation in Annex 7. So that will apply from 19th of July next year. And then the Commission is empowered in conjunction with Member States to add more product groups to that ban on destruction to Annex 7. But they've decided not to use that power in the current working plan. So the current working plan that I've just shown you there runs from 2025 to 2030. So the Commission is going to use that time to gather information under the communication aspect there. And then they can decide in the next iteration of the working plan what other product groups, if any, need to be included here. And there are derogations for small and micro businesses in this as well. And now a quick few words about opportunities for business here. ESPR can really, and you'll hear more about this from Sophie in her presentation, can really enhance competitiveness. It can lead to supply chain resilience. There will be new market opportunities. It will drive circular innovation. Particularly through the use of digital tools, it will lead to simplification and streamlining of sustainability compliance. And we should also see more job creation in the areas of repair, remanufacturing. And then also there will be opportunities around green public procurement. There is an element that mandates green public procurement or mandatory green public procurement. So companies that can produce the most sustainable products are likely to be more successful in public procurement. So my final slide here is just a little bit more information, just some links to some further guidance. The Commission web pages are a good source of information. Our own Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment web pages, we try to keep them up to date, and we'll add any links in there to any consultations that are coming up. And then the European Commission has produced a really good FAQs document as well. That's worth a look there. And then my contact details are at the bottom. So I'm happy for anyone to either ask questions at the end or to email me any questions. Thanks a million, and I'll hand back over to Katrina.
Thank you very much, Aisling, for providing a really good overview of the regulatory landscape and for sharing your details in case anyone wants to get in contact with specific questions. So next up is Sophie Reynolds from Irish Manufacturing Research, and she leads on circular policy and innovation, and we're going to learn all about that right now. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Katrina, and for a really lovely opening from Aisling as well. So what I'm going to do is, Aisling did a great job in terms of setting the context around the scope and the parameters and key dates around ESPR. What I want to do now is look at how, beyond compliance, eco-design requirements as mandated through the ESPR can really be an opportunity for Irish businesses to drive circular innovation. So just a little brief bit about myself and the organisation I'm based at. So I work at Irish Manufacturing Research. We're a research and technology organisation backed by Enterprise Ireland and the IDA, with a mission to demystify, de-risk and deliver advanced manufacturing capabilities for Irish industry. And so this is very much about focusing on 4 core thematic pillars of our work. So digitalisation, robotics and automation, design and manufacturing, and sustainable manufacturing, which is the team where I work along with others as well. So basically, in terms of what this looks like in practice, we are focused on unlocking industry's net zero transition through sustainable innovation, positioning Irish industry in the heart of a net zero transition. We do this by demystifying, de-risking and delivering sustainable innovation with and for Irish industry to deliver a net zero transition. And as you see here, the graphic on the left, we take a cross-nexus approach to this. So water, energy, and the team where I work, which is materials and resources, circular economy. So 2 key programs just to flag that are a little bit more relevant to today's topic. The first is a program that we were involved with, which finishes later this month, which is CircThread. It's a 4-year Horizon 2020 funded project involving 31 partners across Europe. And really the problem that it's looking to tackle is that linear production models dominate in Europe. Only 11.5% of materials are recirculated, and this percentage is even lower, considerably lower here in Ireland. Because data around products is fragmented, this also poses a major barrier in terms of preventing effective reuse, repair and recycling. So really CircThread's vision is for a pan-European digital infrastructure that underpins the circular economy and facilitates tracking and sharing of product lifecycle data, thereby enabling reuse, repair, refurbishment and recycling. And this is very much in line with ESPR requirements and digital product passport standards. How we support this as well is through streamlining ESPR compliance, so making it easier for manufacturers and different value chain operators to meet their data reporting requirements through integrated DPP data. and thereby meeting regulatory compliance as well. Connecting different parts of the circular ecosystem. So currently disconnected value chain operators can find it difficult to share and access product lifecycle data. CircThread is developing an interoperable API and shared platform to simplify this exchange of data. And lastly, this is about driving opportunities for digitally enabled circular services. So opening up a whole suite of possibilities for service marketplaces that facilitate repair, reuse, and resale through the exchange of trusted and verified product data at every lifecycle stage. So for anyone who's interested, you'll see the website links there below and the QR code as well, which can be scanned and bring you to the website. The other flagship program I want to highlight today is Circulera. So Irish Manufacturing Research is Secretariat of Circulera, which is the national platform for circular innovation. So while manufacturing is obviously very much our wheelhouse, we also recognise that if we want to accelerate Ireland's transition to circularity, we need to work beyond manufacturers per se to value chain operators, technology providers, recyclers, and that's very much the remit and mandate of Circulera. It's a cross-industry, cross-sectoral network, public-private partnership network, which is funded and sponsored by Department for Environment, Climate Communications and our Catalyst funder, the EPA and EIT Climate Kick, and as well as a whole kind of plethora of different companies who play a really key role in sharing and exchanging insights and innovation around circularity. So today I'll be spotlighting two Circulera members in particular, just to show how they are really aligning with ESPR strategies in order to unlock commercial and circular innovation benefits. So I suppose the main message I want to articulate is that Ecodesign shifts the system from, just looking at compliance to circular innovation. This is around shifting gears towards unlocking new services, marketplaces, data loops and customer touch points that are very much aligned with unlocking circular value and benefits. So the first company I want to talk about, Circulera member, is Green IT. So in 2024, Green IT partnered with Circular Computing to secure a €30 million contract for the Office of Government Procurement to deliver remanufactured laptop notebooks to different public departments. And really, this was about leaning into different eco-design principles. So principally durability and reliability. So all of the remanufactured laptops that are part of this contracting framework are BSI Kitemark certified. So that means that unlike maybe a refurbished laptop, they are equal to or better than a new laptop. So that is quite a strong claim to be able to stand over. The other, I suppose, eco-design principle is reuse and zero waste. So each device is fully rebuilt and tested, achieves zero e-waste and full circular compliance. So really the environmental benefits of this approach speak for themselves. So this equates to a 97% reduction in embodied carbon compared with new devices, or 316 kilos of CO2 equivalent saved per notebook. And then also considerable savings in terms of water and resource use. So for each device, 190,000 litres of water and 1,200 kilos of resources are conserved. This really, I suppose, has enabled Office of Government Procurement to secure new laptops at lower cost that also enable considerable CO2 savings for government. And it positions Green IT as a leader in terms of low carbon, GPP aligned IT procurement. The second Circulera member I want to spotlight is Revolve. Now, this is a Monaghan-based company, and they use a kind of technology as well to facilitate their work in terms of embedding circularity in the automotive supply chains. In 2022, Revolve worked around developing a modular retrofitting and reuse approach for An Garda Síochána's fleet to extend their vehicle lifespans. And this enabled them to achieve 30% cost savings and reduced around 1.2 tonnes per vehicle of CO2 equivalent compared with full replacement of vehicles. So really this was about embedding eco-design in terms of creating modular, energy efficient automotive components and spare parts, with a view to extend the lifespan and reduce the waste associated with the kind of normal fleet replacement. Also, in terms of, not just looking at decarbonisation, but also this was about reducing or designing out harmful substances of concern. So they shifted to safer materials and improved supply chain data where possible. They used life cycle assessments to lower energy and resource impacts. So much like the example of Green IT, this really positioned them well as a GPP compliant provider and supplier. And this is really paving the way in terms of demonstrating the value of low carbon remanufactured parts as well for kind of green public procurement purchasers. So there are future opportunities as well here in terms of laying the foundations for product as service models and extended warranty models as well as DPPs and ESPR come on stream. So a couple of key takeaways then that I think these two case studies demonstrate nicely. So obviously the two examples I've given demonstrate for green public procurement, and this is something that Aisling picked up on as well in her own presentation, is that strategically green public procurement is going to require circular compliance in terms of tendering processes. This is also going to be something that future marketplace buyers are increasingly going to be looking at and scrutinizing sellers around. But really, these two examples are a nice example of how circular compliance can unlock public sector revenue. So the message being to anyone in the room who's looking at this and thinking about their own products and services, my message being align early with green public procurement and ESPR to access new revenue and boost buyer confidence. The Revolve example in particular demonstrates how modular design can extend life cycle value. So they are enabling upgrades that prevent premature disposal for their customers and helping them to access lower cost solutions and lower carbon solutions also. So designing for reconfiguration can reduce waste and build longer term customer relationships. Both of these examples really demonstrate how verifying impact can build market credibility. So in both instances, both Green IT and Revolve partnered with independent third-party providers to verify their carbon savings. And publishing impact data to differentiate your offer and align with ESPR and Greenwashing Directive, the forthcoming Greenwashing Directive, is a really key way to gain confidence in your products and to be able to stand over your green claims. Equally, certification can signal trust and quality. So Green IT, I mentioned that they used the BSI count mark. Revolve grades all its green parts to VRA standards. So using recognized certifications or eco labels can really help build trust, particularly where quality may be a barrier to your products. And then finally, Ecodesign enables new service models. So Revolve, I suppose they were a good example of being able to leverage retrofit and reuse to develop, potentially new service-driven alternatives to linear sales. And there are plenty of opportunities to look at service model innovations like product as service. There can be a tendency, and what I want to do on this slide is just set out some of the different ESPR requirements, in particular recycled content or repairability being really underlined in the horizontal requirements. But I suppose the message here is that beyond decarbonisation, there are ways to look at ESPR requirements and ESPR aligned strategies to think beyond just decarbonisation. Obviously, decarbonisation being really crucial, but there are opportunities here to reduce any kind of biodiversity loss, impacts from your products and your supply chains, and also to design out pollution. So what businesses can do today in terms of recycled content: source and certify recycled inputs and start to communicate the percentages of the amounts that you're integrating into your products to buyers. In terms of repairability, you can start taking steps now to develop repair manuals and training, to develop repair marketplaces. Equally for substances of concern, replacing harmful inputs with less harmful ones, and preparing for compliance with REACH and ESPR is really critical. In terms of reusability, enable take-back, resale, or second life platforms. For remanufacturing, redesign for component reuse, and building remanufacturing pilot lines and incentives can be really key. And last but not least, water and resource efficiency. You can monitor your inputs and design for leaner processes. Across the board, DPPs, digital product passports, can help here. So whether that's documenting material origin and recycled content in terms of verification and marketing, when it comes to substance of concern, helping different value chain operators safely handle any regulated substances that are in your products, can be a really useful way to leverage DPPs. And let's say with things like remanufacturing, you can also track component age, cycles, and compatibility to support any remanufacturing decisions. So again, while DPPs are kind of still in development, they will be a really key enabler in terms of helping to streamline and simplify this new market reality. So I suppose that the last message for me is that ESPR can be much more than just compliance. It can be a basis for unlocking new economic savings, new service models, and products that are far superior in terms of their environmental and carbon footprints. Both of the examples I highlighted demonstrate how already there are businesses that are leaning into ESPR aligned strategies and using this to unlock circular and commercial benefits for their businesses. I suppose my last call to action would be for any producers in the room, the virtual room, really start to think about how you can design for longevity, modularity, and reuse. These will be core to any future marketplaces, and buyers will be rewarding such approaches. Treat your data as an asset. You can start taking steps now to map your product and value chain data. And digital product passports will reward those who have this data available and those early movers as well. Think beyond products. So there are various different opportunities for service model innovations, be it retrofitting, remanufacturing, resale, to extend your product's lifecycle value. And then the last point, last but not least, is pilot to learn. So research, development and innovation pilots will be critical to you enabling testing out any ESPR compliant or aligned strategies, approaches like service flips. So a research-led approach will really help your business ensure it has the capacity and it has the kind of business case to advance these approaches. And this is going to become ever more important as we transition from the margins to the mainstream with these kind of circular practices. So that's the last slide from me there for now. You'll see my contact details, but certainly please do reach out if there's anything you'd like to have a chat about. And yeah, thanks. I'll hand it back over to Katrina. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Sophie, for sharing those really, really practical, well, first of all, practical advice for companies and how to think about this from a circular innovation perspective and how ESPR can enable competitive advantages, and reflecting on those fantastic companies in your network working in tires and ICT, and which are absolutely core in terms of the sectors affected by ESPR, and also how they're leveraging, I suppose, the different measures and the green public procurement as well. So thank you so much for that. It was really informative. Next up on our agenda is Katie O'Riordan from Kinset. And Katie is going to share all about digital product passports, which is a key measure in the ESPR. Thank you, Katie. I think you're on mute.
Okay, I think you can see me now too. Thanks so much for having me, Katrina. So my name is Katie O'Riordan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kinset. We're a green tech company that helps businesses navigate sustainability and compliance requirements with digital innovation. So I've spent over the last 2 decades working in the fashion and consumer goods industries, designing, sourcing, and managing supply chains for global brands. I started Kinset out of my own frustration with the amount of greenwashing in the apparel industry and the lack of baseline standards to define sustainability. I was running my own sustainable fashion brand called Theo and George, and I just genuinely wanted to do things right. I wanted to make sure our products were actually sustainable and not just marketed that way. But when I started looking for clarity, I realized that there really was none. Every standard seemed different. Every supplier had a different interpretation of what sustainability meant. And most of the tools available felt like greenwashing. So I was coming from a science background and I wanted hard data, something that could tell us, is the product actually better for people on the planet or are we just saying that it is? That's what led me to create Kinset. So Kinset's here to make things easier, to give your brand the transparency and confidence to act, not just to report. So today I'm going to give you a quick overview of what a digital product passport is, how it fits into the wider sustainability and compliance landscape, and how our platform helps businesses prepare for what's coming and turn compliance into real value. So what exactly is a digital product passport, or a DPP for short? A digital product passport is a digital record that stores and shares information about a product's life cycle, materials, sustainability, and compliance. But what does that really mean in the real world? So imagine you're shopping for a pair of jeans. You scan a QR code and instantly get trustworthy, verified information. How durable the product is, what it's made of, where the cotton was grown, whether the dyes were safe, who stitched the garment, and how to repair or recycle the pair of jeans at the end of its life. So that's the power of what a digital product passport can do. It's not just a QR code. It's a structured digital container of essential product data that follows an item across a life cycle from sourcing to end of life. So you may have seen QR codes on products before, but digital product passports are a little bit different. They're dynamic, meaning that the information behind the QR code will update as the product gets updated. They don't link to your website because the information needs to stay with the product for the entire lifespan of that product. So thinking from a consumer good, like especially apparel, that could be 10 or 15 more years. So it's just completely unsustainable to have it posted on a website. That information also needs to be structured so that different stakeholders can scan the QR code and receive the appropriate information that they need. So it's not just about the consumer scanning the QR code, but the same data that's held within the digital product passport can be compartmentalized for customs clearance, business to business procurement, ESG reporting, and compliance. So in short, digital product passports provide structure, traceability, and transparency, showing exactly what's missing in consumer goods today. So now we know digital product passports are becoming a must-have, not just for brands looking to engage with consumers, but also because of the upcoming ESPR regulations that are starting to roll out. These regulations are not just suggestions, they're about compliance with European standards, and they're coming fast. So let's take a look at why it matters for your business. So I know we already touched a little bit on compliance earlier in the webinar, but I wanted to break it down and simply talk about how it's going to impact your business. So last month, the European Commission finalized its working plan under Ecodesign for Sustainable Product Regulation, or ESPR, and apparel has been confirmed as one of the first priority product groups. The implementation timeline for digital product passports in apparel is now set to 2027. Other product groups, including tires, furniture, mattresses, and electronics, will all be prioritized in the first working plan as well, with implementations ranging from 2027 to 2029. So let's unpack what that means. So ESPR, it's an umbrella regulation that will affect nearly every physical good, how it's designed, marketed, and disposed of in the EU. So digital product passports will become mandatory for these categories. And if you want to sell into the EU, you will need to provide a digital product passport for each SKU. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about regulations. Let's see, I'm sorry, moving forward here. And how Kinset can help navigate these regulations. So Kinset was designed specifically for the fashion and consumer goods industry to make digital product passports adoption simple, scalable, and impactful. So what we offer is first data collection. We start by helping you map your product's full journey from materials and processing, labor, and logistics, so you have a reliable source of truth. Then we go into digital identity creation. So under ESPR, every product gets a unique digital identity structured using global standards like GS1's digital link. Now that makes your data machine readable, interoperable, and compliant with the regulation. Then we create passports. So when we generate digital product passports that meet the ESPR regulations, so these are structured containers of the data that can travel with your product from factory to customs, to the retailer, to the consumers, to the recycler at the end of life via that single QR code or an NFC tag. So your products, your IDs, and your passports, and all that data are linked together in our connected product platform. Within that platform, we can integrate into existing PLMs, ERPs, or e-commerce systems, or even use CSV files so that there's no double entry, just seamless data flows across your business. And then ultimately, at the end of the process, we use that passport as a brand asset for you. So what your customer sees when they scan the QR code can be tailored to reflect your brand specifically. I come from the product world and I understand how important branding is. So we use your logos, your fonts, your brand colors and images and videos and messaging. We share your verified story, showcasing certifications, care guides, take back options, even impact stats. So that's where the ROI comes in. Brands historically lost track of products once they were sold to a retailer. Now brands can connect and engage with consumers, offering resale, repurchase, and repair services that provide a return on investment and circularity for their products. So this is interesting because I think a lot of us are thinking about digital product passports as something that is really new. But if we think about the EU energy label, that it's sticker that shows how appliance energy use, it shows noise level and water consumption. It's standardized and regulated and designed to help consumers compare products and make better decisions. So the digital product passport is kind of the next evolution of the same idea, but instead of a sticker, it's a structured digital data set accessible through that QR code, powered by those global standards. So while it's a new format, the concept is quite familiar, and it contains trusted product level information that helps consumers, regulators, and businesses make informed decisions. So now that you know how Consent can help, you might be wondering which sectors should we prioritize DPPs. So it's not just apparel. The impact is actually quite broad. And the sooner you start, the better you'll be prepared. So let's dive into which product categories should be focusing on DPPs now and why. So apparel is just the beginning. While it's the first priority under the new regulation, other sectors are quickly following suit. So if your product has multiple materials, is sold across markets, requires care, repair, or disposal, and it's marketed using sustainability claims, then you should be prioritizing digital product passports as well. So as we expand beyond apparel, we're seeing movement in other sectors, including home textiles like sheets and towels, leather goods, footwear, and even food and beverage categories are starting to integrate digital product passports into their supply chains. These industries are moving fast to ensure compliance, build consumer trust, and align with sustainability goals. So they're about making their products clearer, more trusted, and easier to sell. As we move kind of through the list, so apparel is first with 2027, along with tires, which is also set to roll out in 2027. Furniture is set to roll out in 2028, with construction, intermediate products, iron and steel for 2026, and aluminum 2027. Mattresses are set to roll out in 2029, and then there's horizontal requirements for certain electronics and small household appliances. And those regulations are going to roll out starting in 2027, spanning into 2029. So it really is affecting a huge number of different consumer goods. So let's think of something slightly outside of it, this specific regulation and the working plan, and how we can think about how digital product passports are affecting consumer goods like the cosmetics industry and the food and beverage industry. So let's take beer for an example. You might think beer is just beer, but the way it must be labeled varies significantly across regions. So one major example is ABV, or the alcohol by volume. In the US, the threshold for what constitutes low alcohol is different than what it is in the EU. And certain markets require additional health warnings, ingredient disclosures, or sustainability certificates that others don't. So using a digital product passport, breweries can adapt the information dynamically depending on where the bottle is scanned. It ensures compliance while delivering a seamless consumer experience. I think this example is really good because it can show how it can impact supply chains and logistics as well for companies. So when you're thinking about how digital product passports can improve your product line, and I think what we're seeing with tariffs now and with movement of goods, digital product passports will open up different channels from a labeling perspective for businesses. So clearly this regulation is going to impact pretty much most product-led businesses. So it's about preparing your business to operate in a global digital transparent marketplace. But where do you start? So let's talk about the first steps in making your products DPP ready. Okay, so onboarding. We think of onboarding as a twin track program, but the first thing you do before you start on the track process is to set your strategy. So from compliance to consumer engagement, whatever your business priorities are, it's really important that they are clear. And then you need to select a service provider who's going to hold all this data for you and who's also compliant with EU regulations. Then we start on the first track. So this is what we consider our piloting phase. We recommend starting with one product. We choose a product that's core to the brand or the business and typically has a strong sustainability story, or one that's sold across multiple markets, depending on what the challenge is and the strategy is for that brand. This helps you to test and prove out your DPP process without overwhelming your team. By only starting with one, you'll definitely find challenges within the process that you need to adjust and prepare for as you roll it out across your entire collection. Within this phase, we recommend working with the data that you already have. Most brands already have 70 to 80% of the required data. It's just often scattered in different departments or sitting with suppliers. So we help you collect it, structure it, and fill in any of the gaps. Starting with easy wins from product name to description, materials, country of origin, certificates that are already held, care instructions, key supply chain partners. So by digitizing even a small part of your product portfolio, you'll learn about how the system works and you'll see where the gaps are. And most importantly, you'll start gaining momentum in building out your DPP program. So track 2 typically happens around the same time as track 1. So you have your pilot going, but it's also really important to understand your data. I think a lot of people are stuck on the fact that they're not sure they have the data needed to start a DPP program. And we don't see that this should be something that's holding you back. So once you get the QR codes onto the product, you can redirect those QR codes to a website or to a product page until you have the specific data that you actually need to launch your digital product passport and to be compliant with the SPR. So preparing from the product side is equally as important to preparing from the data side. So track 2, you're identifying your data gaps, you're completing life cycle analysis to obtain environmental impacts. And this is also where you're going to want to educate your internal and external teams as well. And then once you're done, you are able to tell your verified story through your digital product passports. I think one of the biggest concerns that we hear is, do we have to start from scratch? And the answer is absolutely not. So many companies out there have already made significant investments in certifications, reporting, sustainability efforts. So let's chat about how we can build on that foundation rather than duplicating the effort. So if you've already invested in sustainability certifications or reporting frameworks, the good news is you're not starting from scratch. So Kinset doesn't replace those systems. Instead, we help to translate your existing data into a digital passport format. We align and integrate with the frameworks you're already using so that everything works together and not into silos. So we map to, firstly, GS1 identifiers so that your barcodes and your product IDs connect cleanly to each passport. Then we use the PEF method to structure your environmental footprint data for carbon and other impacts. We link your certificates to verify your claims. And then we look at circularity principles to ensure repair, resale, and end of life is included. And then we bring in the EU Environmental Claims Directive. So what you're showing to your consumers is actually verifiable. And the best part is that this isn't just for big corporations, but small brands as well, like Land of Bags, which is one of our partners. They're able to use that existing data to create their digital product passports. But aligning these systems is only half the battle, and the other half is involving the right people in the process. So who do you need from your team to get involved? Every business is structured differently. And what we're seeing is that this can fall in many different portions of your business. So you're going to have sustainability teams, compliance teams, packaging teams, and they all need to be involved. So the reality is there's no one size fits all, but what we've seen is most progress is when cross-functional task forces are formed with clear roles and shared ownership. So here's what it looks like. So a product or a PLM lead be someone who understands how your collections are developed and managed. It's really important because the QR code needs to be implemented into the design and development process. You need a sustainability or compliance lead to interpret the regulations and the sustainability goals. You need e-commerce or marketing leads to build out the consumer-facing side of digital product passports. You need operations and packaging lead who understands the labeling, the logistics, and the materials. And then an executive sponsor to give the strategic backing. So this doesn't need to be a full-time job for anyone, but you need collaboration across these areas to create your digital product passports. So many of our early adopters are small businesses with just a few employees. And even though they were small, they were able to pull together teams to launch a digital product passport. So if you're a small SME with only a handful of people working there, one thing we're seeing is actually a lot of times you can move faster than some of the larger organizations where they're really working with so many cross-departmental teams. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up. Digital product passports are no longer just a nice to have, they're mandatory by 2027. Brands that act early will have a competitive edge and from compliance to consumer advantages. Kinsat offers a fast, easy way to pilot this with your current product lines, and the technology is ready and the regulation is clear. So the only question you should have is when you need to begin.
Fantastic. Thank you so much,
Thanks so
Caitlin.
much.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it. And it's been fantastic actually to hear about the practicalities of how you would go about doing a digital product passport. I think this is an unknown territory for a lot of companies, so that real practical information is really valuable. And I hope that companies might contact you there with your details, your email and the website address is there. So thank you so much. I'm actually, Katie, I'm going to start with a question with you, and I hope you have time to catch your breath. But working firsthand with businesses on DPPs, what are the use cases outside of ESPR, and what are the benefits companies are seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're seeing actually nearly every company we're working with is focused on a different area. So they have compliance and sustainability as the basis for why they've approached digital product passports early. But I think they're looking at different solutions to engage with their consumers beyond what they've been doing in the past. So for example, Land of Bags is one of our partners that we work with. They have created a lost and found program. So if somebody loses their bag, it can be returned to them. And that all happens through the digital product passport. We're looking at widgets that are going onto websites to be able to share this information, not just directly on the garment, but from a website perspective. We're looking at fabric solutions to be able to complete that supply chain communication process. So not even finished garments, but processes that feed into finished garments to help brands be able to drive sustainability throughout the product line with more visibility. So we really are seeing a huge number of advantages coming out of digital products passports beyond just compliance and reporting.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. And Sophie, I'm curious as well, like, for companies, you really highlighted the market opportunity here and like, the circular innovation, competition potentially. Like, say the companies, if they're interested in developing a business and a value proposition, what programs do you have to support them?
Well, if I may ask you to pop up, there's a slide basically
Yes.
about our Circular Era's Circular Venture Accelerator, which is now live and opening in terms of taking applications for the next intake. And this is a great opportunity if you have a new product. So one thing I would stress is that while the language of venture might be something that might trip people up, you don't necessarily have to be a startup completely, although startups are obviously very welcome. If this is a new product offering or a new service solution that you're thinking about that might be aligned with ESPR strategies or requirements, then by all means, please do get an application in. So basically, this is a program that runs between June and December. The deadline is fast approaching, so it's the 14th of May. And this is access to great benefits like €5,000 in equity-free funding, coaching, capacity building, and you'll also be involved with various different networking activities for Circular Era. There's also mentoring, so you'll gain access to one-to-one mentoring support from circular practitioners, reps and other founders, and various other kinds of support, so things like product and market fit validation. So what I would say is if you want to just scan the QR code there, you'll see more about those supports, but we definitely welcome people to consider getting an application in. It's a great support. The cohort from last year, it's great to see them also, gaining ground in terms of becoming more visible and really doing well externally. So I'd urge people to check out that support in particular. Thanks, Katrina. And then obviously, if anyone wants to join the Circular Era network as well, that's an additional support that by all means, please do reach out as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And it's a great network to join. And I've seen some fabulous companies come out of the Circular Ventures Accelerator and they've really gained market traction. So it's a good way to validate a value proposition in the circular economy. Aisling, question for you. So regarding the regulatory landscape, so what are the steps involved in the development of ESPR and ESPR measures, and how can industry provide input?
A million, Katrina. Yeah, no, I think one of the key features of the existing eco-design that the Commission were keen to replicate is it's co-creation with industry, really. So the process really is that they'll identify the product groups, which we now see in the working plan. And then there'll be extensive consultation and studies. So at every stage, there will be an opportunity for business to be involved. And then it'll be discussed in the Ecodesign Forum, which has business representative groups. So my kind of key takeaway for attendees today is, if you think your products are going to be in scope of ESPR, is identify who your European industry grouping is and link in with them, so that you'll have an opportunity to have your voice heard at the Ecodesign Forum.
Super, super. Thank you so much for that, Aisling. And what I'm going to do is, because we're running low on time, is I'm just kind of going to put up a synopsis slide here, just to remind companies on how to prepare if you're impacted by this. So, we have a number of supports at Enterprise Ireland, our sustainability grant supports that can help companies prepare a circular economy strategy to figure out, to help with some of just thinking around circular design, around supply chain. We support companies with life cycle assessment and all the training that requires and goes with that. So we have a number of supports, which I'm going to run through in a minute with those. But also, to Aisling's point here, stay informed about the draft and the upcoming delegated acts, because they're going to specify the requirements. And ourselves here at Enterprise Ireland, I'm actually developing a stakeholder list to continually engage with companies on this opportunity. So I'd really appreciate it if people would reach out to the green@enterpriseireland.com email address, which will be shown shortly, if they would like to stay up to date on various things as well. So I'll just share quickly the sustainability grant supports that we have to help companies on the circularity journey. So we have the Climate Planning Fund for Business. So here we have a climate action voucher, which is a 2-day type of project. So 1,800 funding for advisory support. And then we also have a Green Start project as well, where you can access advice from consultants to introduce sustainability or help to get you, developing a circular economy strategy. You can also use the grants to improve your own capability internally as well. So as Katie mentioned earlier, when she was talking about digital product passports, it's not just one person. There's actually maybe a number of people within a team that you need to speak with and get on, to get on board with to be able to say to develop a product passport or to develop a circular economy product design. And so those Green Plus can be used for those types of trainings. So it's something to keep in mind as you think about that, as well as strategic consultancy as well. We have another type of fund called the Enterprise Emissions Reduction Investment Fund, which is mostly for the larger companies, SMEs as well, who are looking at decarbonising their processes. We're seeing increasingly more circular economy projects come through as companies embark on their decarbonisation journey. Circular economy and less waste and reusing waste and things like that and using sustainable materials all becomes part of the journey. So we're seeing more projects come through that way as well. So there's also training available as well to companies, either through the Sustainability Kickstarter workshops, the Leaders Program, and also the webinar series, which you're now involved with. And here is our website where you can find out more information about our supports. And like I said, please do email, and we'll send out a form after this in the follow-up email to see if you'd like to be involved in a network going forward, just to keep up to date on ESPR. We'd really appreciate that too, as it's one of my key areas of work here at Enterprise Ireland. But just lastly, I want to say thank you so much to our speakers today. Oops, I'm trying to stop sharing my screen. Yeah, perfect. And I want to say, lastly, I want to say thank you so much to all our speakers today. Thank you so much to the audience who've joined us. And, we really appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing your insights on ESPR. It's something that we are all going to be working in for the next while. So please do keep in touch, and we'll share the recording and the slides afterwards. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.